Hi guys, something I get asked a lot is which colour pencil is the best. So today I'll be taking a look at and comparing three market leaders. We're going to have a look at Prismacolor, Luminance and Polychromos. Now before I get straight into drawing with them, let's take a minute to have a look. Straight away I can see that the Prismacolor pencil is a little bit skinnier than the Luminance and the Polychromos, and as a result it does feel a little bit cheaper. Something else to notice is that the ends of the Polychromos and the Luminance are both enclosed, which protects the lead, whereas the Prismacolor is open. So on a first glance it does feel like the Prismacolor pencil is cheaper, and I would say that the Polychromos and the Luminance feel of equal quality. But let's see what they draw like. Now the first thing I want to do is just a single colour gradient and see how easy each pencil is to control. Now I'm starting this off with the Polychromos pencil. The Polychromos are actually the odd one out of these three pencils, because the Polychromos are oil based and the other two are wax based. As a result, the lead is the firmest out of the three pencils, and it does take a little bit longer to get the colour down onto the paper. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because you build up slowly, it's easier to control the gradient and harder to make a mistake. It's also worth noting that because the lead is quite hard, it means it needs sharpening less often. And while drawing this circle, I only had to sharpen my pencil one time. Let's move on to the Prismacolor, which is the first of the two wax-based pencils. And you can see straight away how easily the colour goes down on the paper, even though I'm using the same pressure as I used for the Polychromos. Because of this, it is faster doing the Prismacolor compared to the Polychromos. But I do have to be far more careful with my pressure because it is less forgiving of mistakes. As far as how the pencil feels on the paper, it does have a far more waxy, creamy feel to it, which I do quite like, but I feel like it does show up on the paper and it does look waxy. Colour-wise, I have tried to pick as close a match as I can to the Polychromos, but it does look a bit more vibrant with the Prismacolor, and I'm not sure yet if that's because the pencils are more vibrant or because the colour I've chosen is slightly more vibrant. Let's move on to the Luminance now. And as far as the feel of the pencil goes, I would say that Luminance is in between the Polychromos and the Prismacolor. It feels quite smooth and creamy, obviously because it's a wax-based pencil, but not as smooth and soft as the Prismacolor. So I'm finding it easier to control than the Prismacolor, but it is still layering up faster than the Polychromos. Vibrancy wise, it is looking the most vibrant so far, but again that could be down to a slightly different blue, so we'll see how it looks as I continue comparing. So all in all, so far they've all managed to create a very nice gradient, but the Prismacolor and the Luminance are looking more vibrant in comparison to the Polychromos. Now before I move on, I also just want to put some white pencil over the top just to see how easily each of them blend with the white in their set. And I would say that both the Prismacolor and the Luminance did blend far better with the whites in their set. The Polychromos pencil with the white over the top, it did do a little bit, but it didn't really make a huge difference. But it is too soon to draw any conclusions on what each pencil does best. So now let's have a look at how each pencil layers and blends into different colours. And what I'm going to do here is just do a very simple gradient going from yellow to red. And my goal is to try and make it as smooth as I can. Now I would say after looking at these three together, vibrancy wise, they are all pretty similar, but the Luminance pencils are slightly more vibrant. And as far as which swatch is the smoothest, it's probably the Prismacolor, followed closely by Luminance. If I wasn't looking at them all side by side, I would say that they are all a good gradient, but I do think the Prismacolor and the Luminance are slightly better. They also were far faster to create than the Polychromos because the Polychromos does take more layering to get the same vibrancy of colour. A lot can be learned from the tests I've done so far, but I don't think that we're really going to know which pencil is best without actually drawing something. So what I'm going to do is draw the same eye 3 times using different coloured pencils. And while I'm drawing, let's take a minute to talk about some other different aspects of each set. So first off, let's talk about the colours that are available for each. The Prismacolor has the most colours available. There are 150 different colours available in the Prismacolor Premier range. I own the 72 set, so it doesn't mean that you have to own all 150 colours, but it is nice to know that there are that many available. Polychromos has the second largest set of colours with 120 colours available. And Luminance have the smallest colour options. It has 76 colours. And whilst that is worth bearing in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should go for the pencils with the widest colour choice, because in actuality you'll probably find there's certain colours that you keep coming back to. Now let's have a quick look at price. If you were buying a Prismacolor 72 pencil set, it would cost you about £75, which would work out to be just over £1 a pencil. Now that is the cheapest colour pencils of the three, quite closely followed by the Polychromos. So for a 60 set of Polychromos, they're £78, which is £1.30 roughly per pencil. And by far the most expensive is the Luminance. For the full set of colours, the 76 set, that is £190, which works out to be £2.53 per pencil. Now talking about price brings me nicely into talking about something that I think is often overlooked, how lightfast a pencil is. That is how well pigment holds up to fading in light. Let's start by talking about the pencils that are best for Lightfast, which is Luminance. Now in the full 76 set Luminance range, 61 of those pencils are what's called grade 1. That means that they will last longer than 100 years without fading. And the remaining 15 pencils are grade 2, which means they will last between 50 and 100 years before they're fading. It is worth noting though that these ratings are based on museum style conditions, not sat in bright sunlight. In the 60 set of Polychromos pencils, 54 of those are grade 1 and the other 6 are not Lightfast. So that would mean that if you were, for example, drawing a commission for someone, you would have to be careful with those 6 colours, whereas with Luminance you would be pretty safe using any of them. Now the Prismacolor are far less colour fast. Out of the 72 set, only 42 of them are grade 1 or grade 2, meaning they'll last over 50 years. 14 of them are less than 2 years, so you would expect within 2 years of them being put on the paper, they would have faded. This isn't necessarily a problem, but it does mean that it's not something that I would personally use for commissions, unless you're happy to discount certain colours. So on the surface, Prismacolors do seem to be the best value for money, but it does depend what you're using them for. Wax bloom is also something that should be taken into consideration, and as I said earlier, both Prismacolor and Luminance are wax-based pencils. To understand what wax bloom is, it's easiest for me to explain how a pencil is made. The wax is used to bind with the pigment, and then when you draw that pencil down on the paper, it transfers the pigment and the binder onto the paper. Over time, that binder separates and it starts to look a little bit cloudy and milky. This is something that doesn't happen with oil-based pencils like Polychromos. Now this isn't the end of the world, you can just wipe it away, or you could varnish it and then it wouldn't happen. But it would be something to bear in mind, again, if you were doing a commission for someone, that with the wax-based pencils you would have to give extra care instructions. It's also worth noting that this is far more likely to happen with Prismacolor than with the Luminance pencils. It doesn't seem to be as much of an issue for Luminance. Now I'm getting towards the end of my eye drawings here. I think it's fair to say that all 3 pencils have created a good drawing, but this was a fine detail test and the Polychromos drawing is far more detailed and it was far easier to create that detail. This comes back to how the oil-based Polychromos are easier to sharpen and keep a sharp point, so it is easier to put detail on with them. It's not to say that the Prismacolor and the Luminance pencils haven't created a good drawing, because they absolutely have. I just personally think that the Polychromos drawing is the best for this situation. So which colour pencils should you buy? It depends what you're going to use them for and what your budget is. For Prismacolor pencils, they are the cheapest, they have a really good range of colours, and it's very easy to get down smooth colour which looks vibrant. But their build quality doesn't feel as good as the other two. They do suffer from wax bloom and they're not as Lightfast as the other pencils. So if you were drawing a lot of commissions for people, it wouldn't be the pencil that I would pick. The Polychromos pencils have great Lightfast qualities. They are so good at fine detail and brilliant for building up layers. but they are harder to blend and they do feel a little bit scratchy. Finally, the Luminance pencils have excellent Lightfast, so brilliant if you're drawing commissions. They offer very good coverage that I find is very quick to put down and are particularly blendable, but they do have quite a limited range of colours and they are expensive. I hope this video has helped you work out which colour pencils are right for you. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you found this video helpful, give it a like and don't forget to click the subscribe and the notify bell so you never miss an art tutorial. Happy drawing, guys. I'll see you in the next one.